Alright, so you're gonna have to, bear with me here because I watched this movie, Hocus Pocus 2, on Friday night. So you're just gonna have to bear with me as I try to remember some things, but I'm not gonna watch it again right away. So, Hocus Pocus 2, which I guess you could say what was highly anticipated for me up until I learned what the premise was going to be, and then I was like, they have been wanting to do this for the longest time. Do Hocus Pocus 2. They talked about the 25th anniversary, are we going to have a Hocus Pocus 2? Oh, never say never, that sort of thing. So, who knew? They were trying to do it. It was, first of all, they said, oh, we're going to Hocus Pocus 2. They're like, no, we're going to do just a remake, for the Disney Channel. And then they're like, no, we're going to do Hocus Pocus 2. It's going to go on Disney Plus. Okay, just give us something. And then the news came out that besides the three main actresses, Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy and Jimmy, no other cast members were going to show. And Doug Jones, I should mention Doug Jones is in this, although his character is a little underused in my opinion. But anyway, no other characters are going to show up. The three main heroes were forsaken for three new girls. Just three girls. There was a guy, teenager in this, but he's he's basically Jay and Ice put into one character and probably dumber. I'm just saying. But yeah, all three of our main characters are girls for some reason. And I'm like, well, Disney Channel has way too many girl-focused stuff anyway. And we're gonna do more. Okay? But I don't know. It's just very Hocus Pocus. Well, the three main villains. I'm just going to sit down. The three main villains are females. Our lead in the original was a male. Their first antagonist, their the witch's rival was a male. That being Thackeray Binks, and even to an extent Billy Butcherson, which they retcon some stuff with him in this. I don't understand. But they retcon a few things. But I don't know. And I know that some of the cast members have retired. Armory Katz retired. He came back in 2018 for something, but he didn't retire again. But Thora Birch has gone on record saying that they weren't even asked. None of the three main characters were asked to come back at all for any cameos or anything. They weren't even asked. That to me felt like, oh, we only need the three main witches. We don't need to do anything. Though they brought back Billy Butcherson, and honestly, they could have taken him out of this and it wouldn't have mattered. But to me, it's disrespectful to not even attempt to ask them to come back. It'd be one thing if they asked them, like, no, we don't want to come back. Okay, we won't write a part for you. But to not even ask them to come back at all is disrespectful. Because I don't know, this is over 25 years, almost 30 years later. We get no questions, no answers to some questions that were left over. Like, what happened to Jay and Ice? They mentioned, oh, those boys, last thing I remember, those boys were dangling. Yeah. What happened to them? Did they stay dangling there? And what happens with the book afterwards is a retcon that I don't think would actually happen, given what we know about our main characters. So, first of all, we start off with a flashback to when the sisters were kids, because, why not? And I will say that the kid actresses are pretty good, especially the one with Winnie. But this is the first retcon we get, is they say, oh, she's like, I want to marry Billy Butcherson. He's like, what, me? He's like, yes. Well, we kissed one time. And that's the ongoing running joke with him is, oh, we kissed one time. They weren't actually together. Which you could say, yeah, she thought that was her boyfriend, but he favored Sarah. And they weren't really ever together. He was with Sarah, not Winnie. But it is sort of a retcon in my book. And yeah, so they are chased into the woods. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to figure out why they go into the woods. Like there's this guy played by Tony Hale who's like the head of the town or whatever, and he's their new main enemy, which I don't know. I'm trying to remember why they run into the woods to begin with. Like they're gonna be separated there or something, right? Yeah, they're gonna be like Winnie gets in trouble for something, and they're gonna separate her from her sisters, which is an running theme that comes back. And so they all run off into the woods where they meet Mother Witch, who I thought was gonna have a bigger part in this, but they do tease something with her. Like she gives them the spell book, and she tells them, work it together, and they start doing spells. The whole thing, it reminds you of she turns into a bird and flies away, and they use the book to make spells, and then they are banished into the woods, which is weird because their house is on the other side of the woods, but they weren't forbidden woods. Thackeray ran through the woods to get there, so if they were forbidden, he wouldn't be able to walk through them. And he'd be like, "Oh, Emily, she went through the woods. They're forbidden. I can't go through there." Or maybe he just, because they do stop short in the original before the woods, and then he goes through anyway. So maybe they don't mention it. Maybe I don't know. I'm trying to connect the first one of this. There's really, other than one character who claims to have been there that night, there's really no connection. They do mention, oh, those boys were hanging. Then we cut to 2022, and basically Salem is now especially around Halloween, they are a town where they celebrate the Sandersons and the Halloween stuff, and they've really, they did it before, but now they're really into it. And so we get to meet our three characters whose names I can't remember, but they used to be friends. Two of them still are. The other one, she dating a football player guy. She got popular. She ditched her friends. Stereotypical girl movie trope. And then her boyfriend is the idiot boy I was talking about earlier, and I was watching this, and it's like, okay, they're writing the boy like he's an idiot, but the girls are smarter. And to me, I'm like, I'm just sick of that. Like, the Slumber Party Massacre remake did that the worst. Is that, like, the girls were strong, confident, and could do whatever, and the guys were fucking idiots. And I know people say, well, for years, girls were bimbos in movies, and the guys were the ones. Yeah, but you can't just, and if you sit there and you bitch about it and say, oh, that's not right to do, but then you decide, oh, we're going to switch it around, you are doing the exact same thing you are bitching about. So it's not making you any better than the people who wrote it before. It's a double standard, and it's not right. For you to sit there and go, oh, women shouldn't be portrayed like that. But then you turn around and portray men like that because you think that's justifying it. It's not. And thankfully though, this character is the only dumb guy in this. I mean, there's Gilbert, but he's a little eccentric. They introduce Gilbert, and he's talking about the black flame candle, and they mention virgin. They're like, what's a virgin? And they're like, virgins are people who have never... And the mother's like, ugh. He's like, lit candles before. Okay, I like that. But Gilbert gives this candle to these two because they like to light candles. And obviously it's a black flame candle. Look how it's, I was thinking it'd be a black flame candle. And they go into the woods and they light it, and the witches are brought back, which... First I was like, why? Like, they're in the middle of the woods. They've turned the Sandersons' house into like a gift shop thing again. But it's like thriving this time. Gilbert lives in it, owns it. He has a black cat, which is not Binks, but of course, because it's a black cat, we know it's die, Thackeray. Which would have made sense, and you could have gotten Jason Marsden to come back that say that he's linked. Very easily to do. He's linked to the black flame candle. Every time a black flame candle is lit, he comes back too. You know, it's part of the curse. But no, he's just a cat. No. And so you have Gilbert, who clearly did this on purpose. But they're back, and we get them singing a version of The Bitch Is Back by Elton John, but it's The Witches Are Back. The witches are back. And I'm just like... And the most ironic thing is that yesterday morning when we woke up, we were upstairs with my folks. They were listening to the radio station Countdown, and they're playing Elton John's The Bitch Is Back, and William and I just looked at each other, because I told them about the song. We looked at each other, we smiled. But, yeah. And they played in the end credits too, and I'm like, okay. And there's more than just one musical number. There's a couple of them. But it's, yeah, because you got Bette Midler in the movie. She's got to do a musical number, so there it is. And yeah. So, obviously, these girls have messed up, and they've released the witches, but they sort of convince the witches that they're actually 40-year-olds trapped in teenager bodies, and they say, you don't need to make potions anymore to get younger, we have lotions. And what do you think they do? They go to the store, and they drink the lotions. Ha! I don't know. So... They realize, oh, they're teenagers, and so they run away. And the Sanders sisters go back to their house, which is where Gilbert is, and this is where Gilbert did it on purpose. And he's like, I was the one who helped bring you back, and I'm gonna help you. They're like, okay, we need a potion. They introduced this special spell called the Magic Maxima, which was never mentioned before, and you think that, if if they had the spell on the first one, they would just go ahead and use that to make them all powerful instead of trying to suck the lives out of children. And they said before it was banned. Even the book won't let them do it. And yeah. So they send Gilbert out to get the ingredients, which include the head of Billy Butcherson, which I felt was very forced. It's like, okay, you need to find a way to put him in there. Let's have his head be an ingredient for this. I don't know exactly why it had to be his head. I don't know. But this is where Doug Jones comes in as Billy Butcherson, and he just bursts out of the ground. Oh, I've been alive. And it's somehow British now. I know Doug Jones is British, but Billy Butcherson was not British. I haven't played the clip. Wench, trollop, firefly from hell. He was not British, and now he's, I was in me grave. And I'm just like, he wasn't British before, why is he now? I know he's Doug Jones is British, but that just doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, he and the dude are collecting all the stuff because he says it's a potion, it's a spell to send the witches back. But it's really not. He's tricking Billy Butcherson. And he distracts Billy Butcherson with the games, and then Billy Butcherson realizes, hey, you're trying to help them, and then he takes his head and they go through the ritual. Meanwhile, these girls try to convince the other girl that these witches are going to go after her dad, because the cheerleader, the popular girl who's dating a football guy, her dad is Tony Hale, playing the descendant of the other Tony Hale. And they need to save him, and so to make sure that they get to where he needs to be, they tell him, hey, your daughter's having a party. Really? And so he takes off, and she gets in trouble, but they kind of protect him a little bit from the witch, but they want his blood or something. They need his blood, but they get it from the daughter because she's his daughter. And eventually they have to do this Magic Maxima spell, which the they do this thing with the book that I thought was they were going one way, but does it do anything? So I understand why they did it. They put the book, the witches they trap the girls underneath the house, and they put the book with a bunch of these prop books. And I thought that that was going to end up being that the girls grabbed the wrong book, and then when Winnie and them try to get the book back from them, realize it's fake, and then they got to race to the back to day to get it. So I don't know. I just thought they were gonna play it's a fake book type thing, but no, they get the real book. But they're able to do the magic maximum spell, but at a cost. They say you can do it, but it costs what you care for dearly, which obviously is Winnie's sisters, even though she acts vain. And like you can't say that it's a retcon, because in the first one she's like, and the power will be mine. I mean, Alice, like she only cares about herself, but they even do that in this one, and so it's not really a retcon. She just acts like she doesn't care, but then Sarah and Mary disappear. By the way, they do the joke again, and this is also very weird. They do the joke where they ride on different things, like Mary's on some rumbas, and like one of them rides a Swiffer, that sort of thing, which is a cool, funny joke, nod to the original. But they've taken that scene out of the really recent DVD and Blu-ray releases. So then they make a nod to it. Those younger who have watched the first one, most recent releases, and that's not in there, aren't going to get it now. So why'd you take it out? I don't know. Maybe it's on the Disney Plus version. Who knows? I didn't pay attention to whether it was on mine or not. I didn't really pay. I've watched it a million times, so. But anyway, so yeah. And so the book tells them there's another spell, and so the three of them do it. But the spell doesn't bring Mary and Sarah back. It takes Winifred to them. So she says goodbye to the book. The girls keep the book, and she goes with her sisters. But as they go away, there is a bird following them. So there's a way to do a third one, showing that the Mother Witch is still around. That bird is following them. It's Mother Witch. So they could do another one. All you have to do is light another black flame candle, which they got in abundance, and as they show. And Gilbert apologizes to Billy, and Billy is free from the curse now, too. Since Winifred goes away, Billy, poof, he disappears. He's free from the curse now, which... There's another thing, though, you could say when they come back with the black flame candle, he can come back to that sort of thing, like I said, with Thackeray. But yeah, and then we get a rendition, or a reprise of The Witches Are Back. This is fine. It's the middle of the road for me. I would have liked if they did this sequel maybe 2 or 3 years after the first one. Connecting it with the... One of my biggest pet peeves is when you do a sequel and you don't have the characters you need. You don't bring back key characters. Like Max, Danny, and Allison. They're key characters. They're connected to this. They barely mention them. You see a brief... When Gilbert... Like I said, Gilbert tells a story, you see stand-ins for when they poof, and he takes the book, which I feel wouldn't happen. I feel after the end of the first one. Like, and we know that the book was back at the Sanderson house with Ernie and Ice. But they say that Gilbert took the book. So did he free Jay and Ice? We know the book is still around because at the end they show the book's eye moving around. I feel like Max and them would go back to the Sanderson house to get the book. So maybe they did. It wasn't there, but he freed them. They said, oh, some little black kid came in and took it and didn't free us. But I don't know. I feel like Max would be nice enough to go back and free them. And they said, oh, the book's not here. I don't know. It just feels weird that he would get the book. Or they took it from the... No, because they had the book. They left it. They show it. It's in the house in the very end. So I don't know. But it's a middle of the road for me. I feel like it would have been better if it was done closer. Like the legacy sequels, they always have something wrong with them. Is that it takes so long that you don't have the characters that you need. I feel like Max, Danny, and Allison were needed for this. You know, at least have one of our main characters be like this, the son or daughter. And be honest, Disney was going to make it their daughter of Max and Allison, so that there's some kind of connection there. But the connection they did in this is instead the daughter who's a descendant of the Tony Hale from the past. Instead of, like, even if Max and Allison aren't there, I mean, Vanessa Shaw still acts. So I know they could at least try to get her back. Or it could be Danny, who takes care of her niece or nephew. Which, again, because Disney's pro-female, it'll be a niece. And have her connected. Something like that. Like, she still lived in Salem, but the parents don't. They moved out back to California. And Danny stayed there in the parents' house. Sort of thing. I don't know. They could have connected it better to the original than just have the three and Billy. But it was fine. Something I'm in a rush. I've heard people say it was just terrible. It is not that bad. But, yeah. It's the middle of the road. So what are your thoughts on Hocus Pocus 2? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And, yeah. I'll see you in the next one.